Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and you are joining us today for another episode of Crime Writers of Canada's podcast. And we are almost at the end of interviewing members of Crime Writers of Canada who have been nominated for an award of excellence. And it is my honor today to introduce you all to A.L. Waddell. Hi, A.L. How are you today?
I'm great, Eric, and thanks for having me.
We just met. It's a pleasure talking to you. I know this is going to be fun, but the reason we are talking today is because your book, Too Dark for the Light, was recently nominated for Best First Crime Novel, sponsored by Melody Campbell. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. What a tremendous honor, and just honored to be amongst so many incredible authors as well.
A little bit about you. Uh, A.L. Waddell is a Canadian crime thriller author. He crafts gritty, high-stakes stories set in Toronto, the city that raised him. His debut series brings the streets of Toronto to life with authentic detail, layered characters, and sharp suspense. Blending insider knowledge with powerful storytelling, Waddell is redefining the Canadian detective fiction for a global audience. I asked you for a brief bio and you made it brief. So I thank you for that. But there's a lot to unpack.
Mhm.
So your story's protagonist is Detective Sergeant Cascade. Um, in your bio, you said that you had insider knowledge. So I was
Mhm.
wondering what that knowledge is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have been in law enforcement for the past 2 decades. So I've had a heavy dose of experience when it comes to policing and understanding the intricacies and the behind the scenes of what goes on in law enforcement.
Something that often scares newer writers away from writing police procedurals is getting it right. So
Mm.
I know you're going to get it right, but there's also the balance of getting it right, but at the same time being entertaining to the reader. Where do you find that balance? Because I know there's a lot of paperwork in reality.
Yes, there is, and that's an excellent question. It's just understanding storytelling. Storytelling moves at a certain pace, at a certain cadence, and we know that in the quote unquote real world, uh, there's a lot of areas of calm or peace, as I like to call it, where not everything happens all the time. It's just you do this one thing and you do another thing. But in policing, it can get really, really, quick. Things could happen fast, but things can slow down. What it is with storytelling is that when things slow down, that's where you kind of want to focus on character development. So I kind of looked at that idea and said, okay, well, everyone's always looking for like, okay, boom, this scene, that scene, what's happening, this next thing. But sometimes character development requires you to slow down and really get into the character's mind. So, over the years of developing my craft and working on it, which was about 10 years, it took me almost 10 years to write this book, is that I understood there was a balance. People have an expectation within the genre of crime fiction. So you have to make sure that you write to that, but at the same time, still preserve the story you want to tell. So it's just taken time for me to develop my own style and my own system.
I did notice a fair amount of uh, yeah, character development, a little bit of backstory mixed in with present tense, high pace, which is not an easy thing to do by
Mhm.
any means. But I'm 5 chapters in, and I just started yesterday, and I know I needed to go to sleep, so I had to put it down.
Thank you so much. What a compliment. That's amazing. Thank you.
Um, but in the sense of keeping it real,
Mm,
we're dealing with dirty cops.
right.
And I don't want to say too much, so I'm not going to say too much, but you do say in your Amazon that it's something called the courier service. So
Yes.
maybe tell us a little bit about of what did Cascade get himself into.
Well, the courier service is a small group. And when I say a small group, it's a very small percentage of officers who are corrupt. But what they were doing is that they were providing some extra services for criminals of the city. And what they would do is that if a criminal needed some assistance, they would reach out to them and they would provide the service, obviously at a cost. And just as the story unravels, Detective Sergeant Walter Cascade stumbles upon this courier service. And because he is wanting to take care of corruption, he sets his targets on them. And definitely, you're on chapter 5. he starts to get them and go after them.
It's interesting because you also have the sort of dynamic of the cop who's got 1 year left. And in movies,
Yes.
it's like, oh, you're
Yes.
gonna die.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. The trope, right? That's the
yes,
trope, right?
that is the
Um,
trope, and he
yeah.
seems to want to stay out of it, but he
Yeah.
can't.
You can't because there's a, again, this is why I'm so, I really like character development, is because I think many people, we've all been there. We're doing something that we've done for so long, and it's very hard to step away from it because we've developed these routines, we have these habits, and there's always something holding you back. And, as the series goes on, that will be revealed as to really what's holding him there. Is it the job? Is it because of somebody? Is it because of the attention? Whatever it may be. But as we unpack the character in the series, we'll definitely find out for sure.
I'm getting the obvious sense that this is going to be a series for you.
Yes,
Like, what are you thinking? Like Harry Bosch series, like
absolutely.
really drawn out?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that too because when Michael Connelly and then Ian Rankin and even the fantastic and amazing Louise Penny, these authors are definitely inspiration, right? Even like the S.A. Cosby's too as well. Like these authors are really prolific and they have this ability just to carry a series. And what I've noticed reading a lot of the novels is that it's just really getting into who the main protagonist is, the main character, and how their world evolves. And it does. It evolves through age, it evolves through the relationships, the ups and downs, trials and tribulations, everything. And just looking at that, um, you know, something old, something new, you kind of use that and you remix it for your own story. And that's what I've found. And I'm looking at a long series because there's just so many different paths I could take. And I'm really excited about it. So, yeah, I'm looking at a long series and seeing where it could take me.
Um, that's a very interesting decision because you've also made him older. A lot of people would
Yes.
have started younger. So are you thinking prequels or are you thinking linear or am I asking too much and we have to wait?
No, no, actually, that's a great question. Let's unpack that for sure. Let's unpack that. Yes, it was purposeful to start him older. I felt that, you know, the character has a lot of wisdom, and to get wisdom is, patience plus reflection. And as so far in the book, you can see for the first 5 chapters, there is times where he's reflecting or understanding where he is. And it's very hard to write a character who's very, very young that has a lot of wisdom. So I wanted to start later on. Now, thinking as an author and a brand to branch out, of course, the prequel or the reader magnet, all these delicious things we could do as authors, I'm definitely incorporating that into the strategy for sure. And I'll just leave it at that so we can at least have some, mystery.
Well, we all know you're a man with a plan now, so that's
Thank you.
great.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's talk about two decisions you had to make
Hmm.
for writing this. One is setting. I can see
Hmm.
anybody watching the video of this can see the cover and can probably
Hmm.
spot the CN Tower.
That's it right
Um,
there.
it's
Yeah.
also the first page of your story before you even start is talking
Hmm.
about your choices of setting it in Toronto.
Yes.
Toronto is an interesting city that I don't know. I'll let you describe it. I know you're a
Yes.
lifelong Torontonian.
Yeah.
Advice a lot of people would have given you is to set it New York, LA, make it a big American city. Why
Right.
did you keep it Canadian?
Well, right there, I wanted to keep it Canadian because, yes, I was born and raised here in Toronto. Um, and I'm a big fan of Canadian literature. And I truly believe that, when you're writing, you should write what you want to write. I understand the concept of right to market. There is a time and place for that. Absolutely. And you mentioned a couple of the big cities there, right? You could even bring in the UK as well, because they
Mhm.
have a very fantastic, amazing crime fiction community over there. I understand Toronto. I grew up here. I was born here. Um, TTC, Travel Industries, Dundas, all the landmarks. I understand it. Now, Toronto, like you said, is a unique city. It is home to so many different cultures, so many different people, and so many festivals, so many groups, organizations. I could go on and on. There's so much story there because in every story, there's got to be conflict. And Toronto does have its share of conflict, right? Whether it is socially or politically, doesn't matter. But at the same time, there's this beauty about it where you have so many different diverse individuals and peoples coming together, definitely on, First Nation land. And you have all these stories of people doing different things and these big organizations. And I just really wanted to double down on that. You know, there is authors for all the major cities I felt across the world, especially in crime fiction. I just didn't see something consistent in Toronto. Now, there are authors who write and they write about Toronto, and I've read quite a few of them, and they're fantastic. I just want to carve out this piece of taking a Toronto-based police officer and then writing a story and seeing where it takes me. And plus, Toronto is a world-class city. We're in a world-class city, and this country is fantastic. And we have so many authors and so many voices here. And I just feel like if I can contribute, it won't only just lift my story up, but it will probably inspire other authors or help other authors across the country just to lift it up and saying, hey, you can do this as well. It's just not regulated to a certain group of authors. If you have a story to tell, you could double down, even if it's Winnipeg, if it's Vancouver, Halifax, Dartmouth, it doesn't matter. You could start your story there and just write and double down on it.
I was telling you this story earlier. I, about a month ago, interviewed another Toronto writer, Jennifer Hillier, and I
Mm,
told her about halfway through the book, I realized that one of the characters was black. And I made the preconception that I think many readers do, that everybody is white. Your story is, like you said, in a very multicultural city, and I'm starting to see notes of that. So I'm not making any guesses
no, yes.
of what color skin water has. You haven't told me yet. I'm only in chapter five. Is it important? Is race going to be a factor in this multicultural city, or should I just go back to my assumption that he's white?
Well, yeah, definitely in the book, I do unpack his background for sure. His mom being First Nation and his father being from the Caribbean. So there is a little kind of teaser, a sense of that. All right, and as I develop the series, you will see glimpses of that through either flashbacks or current events. Um, I find that it's important to understand who the character is.
Mhm.
When we're reading about characters, of course, we're all going to have a bias of some sense, whether it's healthy or unhealthy. But as you're telling a story, and if you can kind of what they say, pepper in these little small details, then you can start to see the character. And yes, you will see the character differently, which is okay. This is storytelling. This is what we're here to do. We're here to describe situations, people's relationships, that's what it is, right? And then to understand it. So for my character, just kind of putting a little sample in the first book and then obviously unpacking it more and more. For me, that is like amazing storytelling because sometimes you could just info dump and just kind of stuff everything in there, but it's almost more natural as if you kind of you're getting to know this person. You're sitting with them, like
Mhm.
for all my readers, people reading my book, they're taking their hard-earned time to sit down and meet my character, right? So they want to know who they are over time. So yeah, describing, your character, their ethnicity, their background, their orientation, it doesn't matter. It's just story, and that's what's important. That's what people want to see.
You mentioned it took you 10 years to write this one.
Yeah.
I know the path to publication is a long one for the first
Mm.
time authors. It's a lot to learn. And talking to you, I can tell you've done your homework. Um, do you think the second book's going to take as long, or are you at a quick and furious pace now?
Well, just a quick insight. So it took me 10 years, and the first book I wrote, I sent it off to a few of my alpha readers, trusted people that I have that will just give me really, really good feedback. And they actually told me that I needed to go further back in the story, more or less an origin, because I was like in media res. I was just like in the middle of this, storyline, but they told me to go back to the beginning. So I actually wrote a book that's later on in the series. So after I did that, it took me 10 years. I figured out a system on how I was writing, working things into my 3 act structure and just all the little nuances of beats. And I was just saying, okay, I have a rhythm now. So I was actually able to write Too Dark for the Light a lot quicker. So I wrote that book, and now I guess I could announce it here. Book number 2 in the Water Cascade series is scheduled to release this September of this year. So yes, once you get a good system and a good flow state, which was blessed to have, you start writing and you just keep going and going. So there it is. I'm going to be releasing book number 2 this September of this year, 2026.
Wow. That's great. I don't want to unpack too much. I honestly want people to pick up this book. We haven't even touched on Brenda yet. So
Mm.
we'll
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's a big character.
yeah, he's a complicated. I'm 5 chapters in, and I can already tell he's a complicated character with a lot underneath the water for him.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I tell everybody, I don't know who won this category yet.
Hmm.
You mentioned Louise Penny. She once won this about 20 years ago. So
She did. Yes.
perhaps this is the launch to a beautiful career at AL.
I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that all the nominees and all the characters, sorry, all the authors in each category, phenomenal. Every year, you're just seeing new books, new authors, and I'm just very grateful and blessed to be mentioned in a category with any of these authors we've talked about, especially the ones in this category. And a special shout out to them too as well. I wish you all the success, and I hope one day we meet each other at a conference somewhere and we can all have a good smile.